Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Mystic Hermit. I've decided I think I am going to go over more these aspects of demonic warfare because I'm fairly sure now I'm in a dark night of the soul with aspects of dark night of the senses. And the access to me is too much pain. I'm in way too much pain. It's continuing on. I know I need an upgrade in pain medication, probably all over. I'm exhausted from pain. Even though I'm taking 2 of the breakthrough pain meds a day, I probably need my base level increased. I don't want to do that. So I'm sort of in a bind because, the more pain medication I would take, it is constipating. So I don't want to add to the problem. But unless I get up and start being more active, then I'm still not helping my gut situation. And I woke up this morning realizing the physical therapist is not for me. She wants me to do things that a specialist, what was he called? Gastroenterologist told me not to do. And online, all the research now, and he says it's all changed. Don't eat fiber if you don't have motility in your intestines. If your intestines are chronically not moving, because all the fiber does is block it, and it just builds it up all the more. Well, this gal wants me to have fiber. And then she doesn't want me drinking water like an hour before bedtime. I get dry. I already told her I get up a lot due to pain. And then, yes, I go to the restroom. But last night, it was just twice that I went to the restroom. But I was up. But then I did sleep, and I kept dozing and just went into like a more of a crazy kind of a sleep until noon. I just couldn't get up. I was so tired. So that was good that I slept. But not drinking water an hour before bedtime, and then I said, I get so dry. Well, just wet your tongue. Well, so no, it isn't. She isn't listening. And I told her the reason I'm up a lot, and I dread sleeping because of my left arm and how horrifically painful that gets when I wake up with it, with nerve, just on fire with nerve pain plus numb. It's a sickening, horrific kind of a suffering in that arm. But if I am up a few times in the night, then it keeps it moving. I'm not in a position where it's obviously pinching from the neck and the thoracic spine, pinching nerves that cause that to happen to my left arm, sometimes my right arm also. So it just, when you have a pain situation, and the best thing we can do is adapt to it, accept, embrace it, adapt, live with it, but try to do the best we can. But in times of strife and of going into a dark night, often it's a combination of factors, but the devil will feed on that. And I've got to break the bondage, so to speak, not to be dramatic. The devil is in the temporal and in the spiritual. And if we ignore the reality of the devil, we aren't going to be, it's like if I would only listen to this young physical therapist who also wants to do an invasive exam. She seems to be without any idea of how she can look at my decography MRI, which was quite an MRI to experience, and it shows everything and tells everything. And I've already had that. She does not need to see for herself in person. I don't want another invasive exam, not by a physical therapist. If my surgeon, yes. The decography, yes, that's a specific, very invasive, where they take images inside and out. And it's interactive. It's gross. But she doesn't need to see, she can look at the scans, and she can look at the write-up in order to come up with exercises. But I've already come up with exercises because she didn't give me any. I just looked online, and I'm going to double check the Mayo Clinic site and find out what they recommend also. Maybe even the Cleveland Clinic too. Two places I highly trust. But not this young physical therapist. She's lost me. I drank last night. I needed water. I drink water. I drink hot lemon juice at night. Oh, well, hot lemon juice, that seemed weird to her. It's a known thing. It's supposed to be very good for the intestines. It's supposed to also help with elimination. So, it just, and then that frustrates me. And then when I'm tired, it was all I could do just to keep a grip, with her. And I'm sorry if I seemed cruel or unkind about the illegals or anything. The immigrants, I love people. I'm just a believer in following the law. But the PT is not an officer. And I'm going to call my surgeon and ask either they find another place or just let me do it on my own. Just let me do it on my own. I don't like driving places. My neck is so messed up that I'm, spatially disoriented. I don't want to drive in traffic, and it's traffic to get there. So, and I'm not comfortable because I know I'm not going to do what she told me. Already I didn't take fiber last night or this morning. She wants night and morning. No, I'm not going to do that. I trust this specialist doctor more. Plus, online agrees. Used to be, you eat fiber. Well, you eat fiber if your intestines are moving, if you have motility. That helps. If you don't have motility, it just jams up all the more. So I don't have motility. If she would get the results, but she acted like she didn't know how. I said, well, you can call the surgeon. They'll send it to you. I said, well, I'll do it. But no, I decided, no, I'm not going to do her job for her. I'm not going to call them and say, oh, please send this to her, poor thing. She still wants to invade me and to see for herself and feel for herself. No, I'm done with that. I've had enough. She can look at the scans and see for herself from the scans. It will tell her a lot more than her little eyeballs and her fingers up my you-know-what. So that's just end of the line with that. The old lady is getting feisty here. And I'm getting feisty with the devil. I'm going to get rid of whatever the devil is trying to pull on me because I've got to get up. I've got to do exercise. I've got to take these animals for walks. Even twice a day I should. I need to soak my toe because it's bad again. I need to get with it. And I'm all excited about Saint Spiridon of Corfu, an island in Greece. And I've looked up a bunch on him, but I'm going to deal with the devil first. So I'm going to go through aspects of the devil that I don't think I covered before. It's more on how to handle it, how to deal with the devil in actual life, because I'm having this now, or I've got to deal with the devil and rid out, get the blocks away, and get myself up and motivated again, and on top of the pain, without taking a lot more pain meds. But like this morning, when I kept just going into like this deep kind of a dozing and then into this deep sleep where I'd wake up and want to get up, but I couldn't. And I realized I'm just worn out physically, totally. And it was strange, but I had all this pain in my legs and lumbar, which I have been blocking my mind from it, but it's there. That's what's also making me tired. That's a signal. I probably need the pump increased. The pump uses the least amount of medication, and it goes directly into the spine, into the cord area, and it covers my lumbar and down the legs, but it's obviously not doing enough because it was just like all of a sudden I could feel it all. when I would come out of this deep sort of weird sleep, my legs would just be burning like fire, but dull and constant fire, like maybe smoldering coals or something of pain, of nerve pain. And I knew, and so I'll have to make an appointment and go in and talk to the pain doctor. But I think I'm going to put it off if I can until I go in for my pump refill, which is at least I think it's another month. I'm not sure. I think it's in February sometime. I just don't want to drive in traffic, and he's the furthest place I have to drive with a lot of traffic to get there. So, but I got to get that happened, because he hasn't increased the pump in maybe 2 years also. So, but the arachnoiditis is increased. So I've got to be mature and handle that. Otherwise, in my weakened condition, and this can happen to you guys too, the devil just moves in on you. But the dark night of the soul is an action of the Holy Spirit from God of increasing our faith. But I think I'm also having a demonic sense of trying to keep me down, get me down, because I'm also just not enthused about trying or getting up, and that's not a good state to be in either. So I think I've got a couple things working on me. The dark night of the soul with some of the senses of God to help me increase my faith and increase my ability to maintain and to continue the pain battle. It's a battle. Managing suffering is a battle. All of you who suffer know it. Even getting older for many people can be a battle. That's not really my issue. It's just suffering is my battle. The getting old is like, to me, hey, that's okay. It'll be over sooner, But, so I've got to work on this. I've got to do the practical things, the spiritual things that work. So I'm reorganizing myself. And some of you might think, well, just read the Bible. Sola Scriptura, scripture alone. That'll get me through. Well, yes, but just like if I only listened to this physical therapist and didn't factor in those who know much more than she does, like this gastroenterologist, or sites online from Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic, or what my pain doctor has told me, or what the GP or other doctors have told me about my condition, what the surgeon has done, and all her information that she has in writing. If this lady would just want to get it and look at it, she could learn a lot about what's going on. I thought she would have given me exercises yesterday, but I've got them. They're online. I just got to start doing them. Get my little clipboard and write them down. A lot of them you do in bed. So great. Hooray. My favorite place. So, gonna get on to, I gotta take a grip. Jesus' authority over the devil. So I'm going to go after, get in charge, and have authority over the evil. So Jesus' authority over the devil, he was defeated in the wilderness. Jesus overcame Satan's temptations by relying on God's word, showing his own power over the tempter. So yes, we do rely on Scripture to help conquer the devil, to have authority over the devil. Over the authority over demons, and to utilize the disciples' authority. Jesus gave his followers, us, we have authority to overcome the enemy, emphasizing that the one in them, God, is in us, is greater than the one in the world, Satan. So just good reminders for me. Look in 1 John 4:4. goes through how we ourselves are given by Jesus, by God, authority over the devil. So how to respond? Pray for deliverance. The Lord's Prayer teaches to pray. Deliver us from the evil one. That's in Matthew 6:13. Jesus tells us how to pray, to be rid of evil. Deliver us from the evil one. Submit and resist. Christians are told to submit yourselves then to God. Submit to God, but resist the devil, and he will flee from us. So it's not just a one or the other. We're not approaching getting rid of what holds us down and binds us back, or gets us down into a funk, a depression, or a giving up kind of a mode, giving in to the devil. We don't just do that. But yet if we only turn to God, that's good also. But the devil is cunning. And God himself teaches us to submit ourselves to God, but also to resist the devil. So God tells us to do both. And that's from James 4. If we resist the devil, if we shove the devil aside, the devil will flee from us. So that's from James 4:7. So in the Bible, Jesus describes the devil, Satan, and the evil one, not as a metaphor, but as a personal and dangerous spiritual adversary. I'd been through this before. It's just good to review it. His teachings emphasize the devil's deceptive nature and his role as the primary opponent of God's kingdom. So here's a description of the devil's character. It's a little bit of a repeat too, but doesn't hurt. I'm getting on top of it here. Mercy, do you see doggies out there? Come here. The character of the devil is specific descriptions that Jesus used to describe the nature of the devil. He's a liar and the father of lies. There is no truth in him, and lying is his native language. That's from John 8:44. There's doggies out there. He's a murderer. He was a murderer from the beginning, says Jesus, seeking the spiritual and physical destruction of humanity. That's also from John 8:44. Jesus is saying these things. The evil one. Jesus frequently referred to him as the evil one. He says so in the Lord's Prayer, asking God to deliver us from the evil one. That's from Matthew 6:13. So those are repeat. I remember saying those things to you, but how the and he's the thief. He comes only to steal, to kill, and destroy. The devil is destroying my will, weakening my will, and destroying my desire to get up and engage, to get functional again. I just want to give in to the weariness, and in my mind to the darkness of pain. It's getting on top of me, and in a mental way, in a way that the pain meds isn't going to really change. It's attitude, that the devil is working on my attitude to try to destroy it, to steal it away from me, my positive attitude, my good attitude. The dark night is also, but that I know will eventually build my faith. That's why I've been praying, I'm returning to know my enemy, the devil, but also turning to God all the more. But I use the physical therapist as an example. She's not the devil or anything, but she's a disappointment. She's not meeting what I need, and what the surgeon wanted was for me to be having exercises. She'll get to it eventually. But she's got all this other stuff, just stretching it out to get more insurance money, I suppose, or or it's just her way. And, maybe thinks it's a power thing maybe, or she's very professional, but she's not listening to me. And there again, another person who knows nothing about arachnoiditis. So she was like trying to look it up while we were talking. But I said, just wait. When you do look it up, just look up arachnoiditis with the intestines. And that will explain what arachnoiditis does to intestines eventually. So that will help her a lot if she will. But so the devil also is the ruler of this world. Anyway, the physical therapist reminded me it's all out of the world. And I can do my physical therapy here. I'm better off away from the world. And not with someone that has she is contrary to me. I could sense it. There was this power struggle going on. I was merely explaining, but she took it like as a threat and became very dictatorial. Doesn't work with me. Not when I've nearly died from a gut attack. No, I'm not going to do something that's even going to come close to risking another one. No fiber. Oh, and I'm drinking water all night long if I want. And I don't care, because the more I get up, the better it is for my arm. I get off the position that's pinching it, or whatever's happening to it. So, and she doesn't want to listen to that. So it's a demonic, it doesn't necessarily come like, she didn't have horns or flaming red skin or anything. She wasn't talking in some deep, weird voice, but she was an obstacle. She presented as an obstacle to me and to herself, acting helpless, like she didn't know how to call a doctor to get the scans, the results of the decography sent to her. Expected me to do it for her. No, I can't. It's like, why? I'm so tired. I don't want one more thing to do. I don't even like to make phone calls. I had to call Medicare today, which, and the lady was so nice, and I built her up because she deserved it. She was so nice and tried to help figure out why my bank bill pay won't take the account number. Has to do with the bank. I have to go to the bank and get that worked out. But anyway, so it's all these things of the temporal just mounding up on me when I'm not in any fit state to deal with anything extra. That's when the devil uses those things to try to get to me, when I'm so worn out from the world. I just want to pretend that I'm in Corfu with Saint Spiridon. I'm going to make I found a soup online that they make in Corfu. And I found somebody whose grandfather is from there. And she remembers his recipe for this special chicken soup. Chicken and lemon and stuff. So I'm going to make that with my chicken that I have thawed out. So I'm going to Corfu. In my mind, I'm going to do an imaginary trip. That's what I need. Positives. And something that is delightful and not a conflict. I can go without having to wait in line at an airport or get some horrible lung disease. I always get sick if I'm on a plane from the air and stuff. I get somebody's cold and it goes into my lungs and all that. So I can do this right here. I'm excited about that. But so the rule of the world, Jesus acknowledged that Satan has temporary influence over the current world situation. Think of what happened in Minneapolis last week. Was that last week? Yeah, just last week. That was demonic, all of that. And there's another video now of other women. Just women who are bored at home, I guess, but they feel deeply about it. But they come out, and she was horrible to the officers. This other lady, a totally different one. and smart Alec and not moving her car was, I think it was in the same town, but they're getting worse instead of better. They're coming out of the woodwork to try to do more, get themselves shot, I guess, trying to be more demonic. No, they're not demonic, but the devil is inciting them to break the law. That's not good. That's not holy. If you disagree with the laws, then work to change the laws. Vote, write letters. That's our options. Or break the law and get arrested. And this officer didn't want to arrest the lady in this latest video. But she needed to be. I couldn't believe an adult person treating another human even like that, like she was treating. So anyway, this is how the devil gets involved in daily life and seems to be the ruler temporally over the world. That was in John 12:31 and 14:30, where Jesus says that Satan has temporary influence over the current world system by calling him the prince or ruler of this world. So how the devil operates, he snatches away truth, does that. That's exemplified in the evil one who comes and snatches away the word of God sown in a person's heart. The parable of the sower. He plants spiritual counterfeits. Jesus identified the devil as the enemy who sows weeds. The sons of the evil one sows weeds among the wheat. And so sows trouble for us. Little bits of trouble. Even in like an attitude. Had that PT person just slowed down a little bit, listened to me, and said, well, if you're up already, then it's okay, go ahead and drink water. Because you'd be up anyway to go to the bathroom, but no. And and I need water. Somehow I'm extra dry. Well, the lactulose that I have to take. It's a medicine that draws water from my system into my intestines to help try to eliminate. And so I need more water to counter the lactulose drawing water from my organs, from my skin even. So, there's reasons for this that I was trying to explain. So, but that putting blocks in the way, God doesn't put blocks in our way unless we're doing something bad and he wants to protect us. But otherwise, God is trying to help us. There's a cause and effect to why I have to drink more water, even in the night, because I'm supposed to take the lactulose at night. So then it starts drawing the water in the night. So see, it's just, so these are just, I'm giving you examples of just everyday things that when they start going south, we know that it can be the devil using another person or using a situation or trying to get at us even, trying to use us. I kept my cool with the woman, but I woke up today realizing I'm not going back. I don't want any more. And I'm not going to have her looking for herself. She doesn't know more than the surgeon who looked, or the people who did the decography, who are trained in that, and know, and the radiologist who read all the films. This lady doesn't have a scan in her brain. She doesn't need to look and feel. I'm done with that. There's information plenty for her to look at to figure out what exercises to give me. Her feeling around isn't going to make any difference for her, but for me, it's just more invasiveness. And I'm tired of it. So, the devil sifts and tempts. Jesus warned Peter that Satan has asked to sift all of you, and you're to sift as wheat, showing the devil's desire to test and break the faith of believers. And if we get in a situation where someone is adversarial to us and also not up with the current knowledge of people whose intestines aren't operating, don't use fiber. And I already know I'm getting some fiber because even if you puree a soup that has chicken and mushrooms and celery and carrots in it and onions, fiber, 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 then you still get some fiber from that. It's not like drinking a pure liquid. So that's what builds up in me that I still get clogged and why I have to go to all these extraordinary measures. But I need to have exercise. That's what's going to help get the organs to stop being prolapse. Certain exercises will do it. I've been reading about it because I realize, I'm not getting the help I need from another person. Not fast enough. Jesus was clear that the devil is a defeated foe with a certain end, though. There is a fate to the devil. This is what we need to know. There's ways for us to combat it. We don't have to just be victims of evil, or not even evil, but just obstacles, problems. We can tell when the devil's beating on us. Those of us who are older usually can. There's all kinds of little interferences out there. And if we're tired, it can trigger us into being like, which is how I am. I'm going into battle. And that's a good thing, because we realize something's wrong. I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling up and upbeat and positive and inside out joyful. And what I used to say, I'm an upbeat, positive, inside out joyful Eucharistic Catholic. No, I'm feeling put upon, worn out, like weights are on me. And I want to get up, and then the thoracic spine starts in. And then I gotta get down, and these dogs want to go for a you-know-what at WALK, and my toes hurting so bad. So I have to handle all these other things. And it isn't like, the devil with the pitchforks doing all this. It's the buildup of obstacles. And the devil, though, will feed on those temporal things and make it, and they can prevent us from taking action if we don't figure it out, that the devil's feeding on it, sifting us, trying to test us and break our faith and keep us down. Have another day go by where I feel like I've just been pointless and useless, which is not a good thought to have. Even that thought is not inside out, joyful, positive, Eucharistic Catholic, upbeat, handling things, Even from bed, we should have that essence that we're on Jesus's team and we're winners, So, fallen from authority, Jesus remarked, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven, signifying Satan's loss of power as the gospel was preached. That was Luke 10:18. Under judgment, Jesus declared that the prince of this world now stands condemned. John 16:11. And we can condemn the devil. Get out of my cell, Satan. Get out of my attitude. You don't have access to my soul. I'm not letting you have access to my intellect or my attitude or my emotions, not to my images, not to my sense of what I am and what I can do or think or feel. I'm going to make a Corfu chicken soup. Has a special name, a Greek name. I forget it. I'll write it down. That'll help me remember. Eternal destruction. Jesus taught that eternal fire was prepared for the devil and his angels, the devil's angels. The devil has a legion of other devils. They're all angels that fell. They fell from God's sight, from his blessing. They chose to not follow God. The angels of light stayed with God. The angels of darkness fell, and Lucifer, the head angel, the devil, now we call him the devil, or Lucifer, or Satan, is the one that leads these legions of dark angels. And I have specific truth of that there are, the devil has a legion. He has other angels that he's over. That night I was praying in the chapel, and all these little naked demons came in. I was on the floor like this with my knees up, praying for this young priest and for my mother and for different things. But it was before I knew the truth about the young priest. I call him young. He wasn't really. He acted young. He was very immature. And he was a small man. But he was 40 or 41 at the time. But I was starting to sense something is not good here with him. Something is not good. And I wasn't quite sure, but I knew it had to do with sex. And I thought maybe with a woman, because he kept flirting with this young mother who was about his age but had boys that were junior high and in early high school, a couple of boys and a husband. And he would flirt and flirt with her real obviously. I thought, that's weird. So it was triggering me. And I'd become a friend of his, talking. He loved to talk with me about spiritual matters. And I was starting to wonder about that even. And because it was odd, that he was interested. And it turned out he was toying with me. He admitted that he wondered, well, if you have these gifts, why can't you see what's going on with me? Well, just needed a little time is all, because he had me fooled. The devil had me fooled at first, because he was an outstanding priest in every way. His masses were beautiful. I mean, his own performance, his part of it. His sermons were outstanding. He was enthused. He had a personality that would draw people in. His masses, his sermons, people would come there from other parishes to hear his sermons. And of course, I was all for any priest that could build up and bring people in. But this was the one certain thing, that Satan falls. He will fall sooner or later. Anyone who has the devil messing with them or has accepted the devil and is doing bad things has let the devil come in and live with them. And will always be condemned. The devil isn't going to remain uncondemned and unseen, and will have eternal destruction. There will that will be prepared for the devil and all of his little devils. So all those little demons were buck naked, and they came and they sat around me with their naked rear ends. They were like adolescent demons. And they each had a little finger sticking out of the forehead. Just a little finger sticking up of skin, stretched over. It was like a little penis. I'm not kidding you. That also was a clue to me that this was a sexual thing, but it was a warped thing, because it was a tiny, tiny little projectile up. And icky. And they were naked, and they around me, and I could not move. They had me wedged in on the floor. And then the next day I went into the confessional. It was a Saturday evening then, at 4:00 or so. I went in and I said, "You are in serious trouble." And his grandmother had died. I said, your grandmother is disgusted with what you're doing. And he was like, whoa, And then by the Monday morning, we got through the weekend with the Saturday evening Mass. I went to a Sunday Mass there. And then Monday morning, we had a talk. And he poured it all out. He was a groomer of boys. He was a pedophile. In fact, even young boys, it's called eusebiphobia. And I kept eye on him, and then I had to turn him in. Eventually, I had to turn him in. It's like the illegals, He was an illegal. He hadn't acted on it per se. He hadn't had sex with one of the boys he was grooming, one in particular. So I kept an eye on them. I couldn't believe the mother and the father letting their only son spend all this time with him, even in the evenings. And I would watch them. I would stay in the church and pray all night, and they'd be out there. He'd have a little bonfire, and this kid out there talking. It'd be summertime, late into the night. And I always watched to make sure that they did not go inside. I would have torn over there. Well, walked, because I can't run. My back's so bad. And then I realized, this is nuts. He's a groomer. And I had other priests who knew about it. And, don't turn him in. He isn't acting on it. Yes, they are when they're grooming. When they have someone, and then he would express his ideologies to me. And that did it. When he had a plan in mind of when he was going to act with the kid. And maybe that was still just a wishful dream he had. Maybe he never would have acted on it. I couldn't take the risk. He was breaking the law. He had already broken the law of his vows as a priest. Celibacy. He no more had a celibate mind. He was sick. He had perversion going on. And he had ideologies of having sex with these boys. He could hardly contain himself if a shirt would lift up when a kid was putting an altar server garment on. So he was sick, and I had to turn him in, and he had to be removed. And even that, they didn't do it fast enough as far as I was concerned. So I kept watch, and I had this young woman who was the youth director, and she was there a lot. It was after he had kicked me out of the parish. He didn't like it. He did not like having me know and me there, because it made him feel the guilt of his sin, what he was doing. And too bad I had someone there who took up for me. She didn't know what was going on. I didn't tell her. But I had her report to me and tell me everything he was doing, like I was interested, just out of curiosity. And she thought he was just so great, wonderful. So see, the devil was using that situation. Then when I had to report him, I did tell her. She was crushed. But I had to tell her, this isn't a good person. I'm sorry. He's not. And needed to be removed. So, that's what can happen. There are demons, and they keep on and keep on and keep on. So, beyond a literal being, the devil in Jesus' teachings can be understood symbolically as the personification of internal and external forces that oppose spiritual truth. These interpretations often focus on the etymology of the names used. Satan, meaning adversary, someone who's an adversary to what we need, what is good for us, what is best. Diabolus, meaning slanderer or divider. Human ego and desires. This is the internal and psychological symbolism of the devil. Some interpretations view the devil as a metaphor for the shadow side of human nature, representing selfish impulses, greed, sexual impulses, the internal struggle for self-mastery. Jesus' own temptation in the wilderness can be seen as a symbolic representation of the human struggle between personal desire and divine will. Also, spiritual fracturedness. The devil may symbolize a disequilibrium within the self, the multitude of conflicting wants and passions that pull a person away from a unified unity of self or connection with the divine. And that's what, like I'm sort of struggling with. I'm feeling a disequilibrium within the self. But I don't really have any passions that are pulling me away. But I do have a disequilibrium. I'm having demonic interference of some sort. It's one that I'm not used to. But I want to get rid of it. And I will. It's a matter of educating ourselves on these things. I've had all kinds of experiences with the demonic. And this is a new one. This experience I'm going through is new. But the devil's very clever and will try all different kinds of techniques. No matter how old we become, no matter how many experiences we've gotten used to, or we can identify that the devil works this way and that way, he can always come up with a new one he hasn't tried on us. So this one's very subtle, what's going on now. Stripping my ability to pull up and out emotionally, feeding upon the fact that my arachnoiditis has progressed and the pain is very hard to manage with mind and with body, that I'm exhausted, which is hard to overcome because pain itself is fatiguing, and just with a spiritual sense, and then the world. Somehow I'm very conflicted. I have a big heart for people in other countries. I feel so blessed that I was born in this country, even though I don't like the direction of this country spiritually. The devil has a big hold over many, many aspects of our country. But I am a law and order person with God. That's why if there were any way I would, and with the church, I would be at Mass. We don't have to. It's not any law. Easter, yes, but I would be there every day and a couple of times a day if my body could tolerate the sitting and the driving to get there, and then sit, and then the ecstasy that disturbed priests and people, even though it shouldn't have. But we can't control how other people will react to things. So in all of that, I had to understand that God was saying what kind of hermit he wanted me to be. Not one that's involved with a parish and a diocese, but the traditional, historic hermits, the saint hermits, the saints, and the saints who were disabled who couldn't be at Mass. So I was pushing myself beyond what I could push, what I could handle physically. And God was saying, slow up there. You don't have to. I will be with you. He had subsumed me into the Mass. I had become one with the Mass. My suffering is one with the sufferings of the church. I'm in Mass. I've become Mass within. I don't need to physically sit there. I can have His real presence given to me anytime, here, mystically, spiritually. But I wouldn't ordinarily break what I consider a law of my own, of desire. I love Mass. So, and I also admit, though, that I have a little bit of a phobia of getting injured because I was terribly injured at Mass. The neck injury I had at Mass from people who wouldn't stop messing with me. Even though I had a sign. It said, please do not touch, do not worry. Meditating. they still messed with me and lifted my head up, then let it go when it was past the gravity point, and it went backwards, dropped like a bowling ball, and tore a lot of tendons and nerves and messed up my neck that was already bad. So gave me a terrible concussion and horrible pain, and I couldn't drive, I couldn't write. The letters would be all jumbled because something happened with my mind. So no, I have a fear of being injured by people and also persecuted and attacked too, because of the way the priest would handle a situation like that time and again. So anyway, the devil works through those situations also and tries to get at me, to guilt me. Even so, even though I know I should have no guilt, but still he works through somebody or something to guilt me. So, but I feel bad about the situation of the illegal immigrants, but I know for myself that I would at least want to remain in my country and build it up. That I feel like I am in this country, I need to build this up. It doesn't need building up other than spiritually, really. And it needs that a lot. So, but of course the devil will try to stop us from doing whatever that has to do with God, including our own prayer life, and will cause people to become more desperate for money and to live a enjoyable life because we have such a warped sense of suffering. We consider suffering the devil when suffering and love are so intermingled. You don't have love without suffering. You don't have suffering without love. So it's, Jesus on the cross, all that power of love wouldn't have happened without the suffering. So, but we think, oh, these people, they have such terrible living conditions. Yes, they do. Father Vincent does. I haven't heard from him again. He usually, at least he would have had the money by now, I said. Would have had it last Friday, and I haven't heard. It always worries me because he lives daily with being killed, kidnapped and killed. That's what they do to priests there, and ministers too, Christians. Children, they don't care. Women, children, more of them have been rescued, but most of them not. Lots of children have recently were kidnapped. They rape them, they kill them, sodomize them, whatever, but always and ask for big ransoms, get paid the ransoms. More often than not, don't release them. Kill them anyway. So, yes, I would like to save all of those people and have them come here. But our system isn't set up. There's no legal channel. But of those people, they should be airlifted out. That people who can work and make it and get educated, and then those who can't, we should be sending them money to help them get educated and to help them then be able to have jobs or get scholarships to come here to get educated, then go back and build up their country. And yes, it's different if you're in a country with a dictator. But anyway, it's a big conflict I have. It doesn't do any good people protesting in bad ways with people who've broken the law. And especially they're trying to get the bad ones out, the criminals and the drug dealers out. So we shouldn't interfere with that. And everyone who's lost a child or a wife or a husband through illegal murders or deaths of some sort, even drunk driver illegals, they're not ever saying, oh, let them stay, let them come in. No. So it's all perspective. We've got to empathize with those people too. It gets to be a point where it's just a mass of confusion and upset. And if I'm not careful, the devil will use that. My upset, the sort of a no-win situation. The only real win is for us to help people in their countries, and they stay there and they build up their countries to be good countries. Which then people, the very same people, then get mad at this president for taking out a horrible dictator who kept his people down. Now they have a chance to build up. And they get mad if they think this president is trying to help their country make sure they get a good leader. Not another one who's going to do the same horrible things to his people. So it just gets crazy. So I just turn back to God. But in the meantime, the devil tries to get to us with internal and psychological issues, like some interpretations view the devil as a metaphor for the shadow side of human nature, as I said, and gets involved in impulses and greed and the internal struggle for self-mastery. That's what I'm in now, an internal struggle for self-mastery, to get a grip. Jesus' own temptation in the wilderness can be seen as a symbolic representation of the human struggle between personal desire and divine will. So we have to look to what God's divine will is and hope that our personal desire matches that. And if not, we have to get our personal desire to match it. And I don't know if it's God's divine will to have the people from countries who do have promise leave their countries and come to a country that already is blessed. Or does he want them staying there and making their country blessed also? Or has it just come down to money? That they want to come to this country because they think they can make a lot of money here, which they can make more money than they can in their country. But then they get here and realize, oh, the cost of living here is so high. So they end up in poverty here. Some of them do. Some of them come and are coming for drugs or to deal drugs because they can make more money selling drugs here than they can in their country. But that's not good for us, for our people, or for themselves. Or to be always hunted down. That feeling of, I've done something illegal, when am I going to get caught? When are my kids going to get caught? Or a false feeling that they won't. And then it happens, and then all these people get involved in protests, and what good are the protests doing? None. They haven't changed the reality of anything. It just causes trouble, more trouble for themselves. They could have been doing something great the days they're out protesting. They could have become a missionary in those countries and gone there and lived and done something productive to actually help the people. Taught in those countries. Done child care in those countries so the parents could both work and make some money to get out of their poverty, or any number of things. If they really wanted to help in tangible ways, get some self-mastery over themselves, find something more productive to do than trying to cause officers not to be able to do their jobs to get the bad illegal people out. They would want the bad Americans caught. We wouldn't like that, would we? So, leave all the bad people out just to keep killing and raping and stealing and stuff? No. So, no. Spiritual fracturedness. The devil may symbolize a disequilibrium within the self, the multitude of conflicting wants and passions that pull a person away from a unified unity of self or connection with the divine. And I've repeated that because it's important. If we are being pulled away and feel fractured and disunified, we got to get it back together. So for me, I guess stay away from the news and from that topic. It doesn't do me any good to even know about it. Other than I can pray for the woman who lost her life and pray for her woman husband who told her, drive, Leanne, drive. And she drove right into the guy. And then turned and then got shot and hopefully is in heaven or progressing, probably in progression because she didn't have it together, evidently. The power of doubt. In psychological readings, Satan represents the echo of doubt for the accuser within the mind that questions faith and discourages virtuous action. Social systemic symbolism. Systemic evil. Jesus often applied the label of Satan or offspring of the devil to human systems or individuals, such as the Pharisees, who actively opposed God's work. In this sense, the devil symbolizes social, political, or religious structures that prioritize the thinking of man over the thinking of God. So we get into this mode of thinking more as man thinks rather than thinking of God and as God thinks. So that's when we get into opposing God's work, the reality of good and of divine will. The principle of division, derived from the Greek diabolos, the one who divides. The devil serves as a symbol for anything that disintegrates communities, causes discord, or tears apart relationships. Can happen in a family, in a divorce situation. I was thinking of that this morning. I don't know why I thought of it. Maybe because I was going to talk about this. But I remember one of the women that my husband had an affair with. A long-term affair, as it turned out. She had children in his school. It was his first elementary principal position. And she was a mother at the school. And she was involved in the PTO and worked her way up, became a PTO president, parent-teacher organization. She had her 3 children there, 2 boys and a girl. And from the very get-go, from when he first got his job there, before we even got moved down, myself and our 2 little girls at the time, we didn't have a 3rd child yet. And he was already shacking up with her, having sex with this woman. And then started inviting me and our 2 little sweet daughters over. And her husband would be at their house. We would spend time together. Evening, Sunday afternoon, our families together, our children playing. I was wanting to have a 3rd child at the time, and finally, talked him into it. Let's have a 3rd child, because the time was, the spacing was getting a little far, and I always wanted 3 children, thought he did. And he would go out, he got her a job then, and we'd spend family time together. I thought, well, isn't this nice that she's being so friendly? And her husband seemed nice, and he was nice. He was as stupid as me. And They were getting it on. Probably, maybe even while we were there talking, who knows? But that went on, a good year. And he hired her then. He developed a position in the school, a volunteer position that she could work there so he could be with her even more and have sex in his office. The secretary knew, the teachers all knew. My little girl was in kindergarten, the eldest one. Oh my goodness, all that going on. I had no clue. I started to suspect by the next year, and then it was odd. I did get pregnant. And she got me a maternity top. It was just so bizarre. It was like, what on earth? But I remember then a couple of years, well, we moved, I found out, and we moved, but I made a call to the woman after my husband finally admitted to that and to some others. She was the one I mainly suspected and knew about. Deep down, I knew about it. And I could pretty well tell when it had stopped happening. And I had a miscarriage with the baby that I got pregnant with. And that was very hard to lose a child. Any of you who have know how hard that is. But I thought, well, why haven't they called? The husband and the wife that we were friends with. So I called. And I thought, I just want them to know, that I lost the baby. The one that she'd got me the cute little maternity top. And the husband got on the phone. I asked to talk to her because I'd tell her, that I lost our baby. My husband's and my baby. And the husband answered, and he wouldn't put her on the phone. And his voice seemed very somber. This nice man. And he said, I'm just so sorry that you lost the baby, but no, she can't come to the phone. Well, later I found out he had found out about the affair and put a stop to it, obviously, as best he could, which wasn't very good. I found out later, like a year later, that he was still driving back there to have a fair. People spotted them in a nearby town of Fallbrook, where I eventually moved, but spotted them eating out, this lady and him, on a night that he had told me he had some late meeting or a conference that he had to go to, or who knows, all these things that he would tell me. That even finally the counselor we went to said, how could you think that an elementary principal would have that many night meetings or conferences to go to? She put him down in a way because he thought he was hot stuff being a principal, but no, principals aren't that hot. I mean, they work maybe an hour after school, but they have a very loose schedule. Obviously, he had time to fit it in, as we shall say. Anyway, that came to me this morning, that I called her then and asked her, how could you do this, knowing that even when I was pregnant, and even when I then had another baby that was a live birth, and you had a shower for me, how could you do that and be screwing with my husband, knowing we had these children? And I said, no wonder I had so many infections. Your yuck. And I didn't say it like that, but I asked her some questions. Like, no, why would you do that? And she says, I don't want to I can't talk about it anymore. And hung up, got off the phone. I asked her, how many times did you meet? How many times was this? How many years? Well, I found out later it was still going on when I had called her. That was part of the time that somebody reported, we just saw them having dinner. But they knew we were separated then. My husband and I were separated. And, she was just out to dinner with them down in Fallbrook. We saw them at this expensive restaurant. So, and they'd been there before, so but he had women up where we were living then also. He was a busy guy. But it just the evil, the principle of division that the devil will do. I had trusted this woman. Her husband had too. And the family, I thought, what a nice thing. They're making friends with us. And the children loved playing with the two older boys and the little girl. The little girl was maybe a year older than my eldest. She was in first grade. And I thought, how sweet, how kind. No, it was just an opportunity for them to be together more. So it was, talk about the diabolus, the one who divides. Um, so disintegrates communities. I couldn't believe that all those people in the school didn't. No one told me. Even the district office knew. Later, some woman at the secretary, oh, he had so many women. Didn't you know? He was screwing with all the women. Ah, yuck. And, causes discord and tears apart relationships. In fact, the superintendent of that district called me and offered me a very nice position in the district office that I should have taken, but I couldn't cope with the thought that all these people knew, and he knew, and no one said anything or did anything, even to him. They didn't say, stop this, it's bad for the school district, it's bad for the parents who all know, that you're doing this. Bad for the other teachers, and it really turned me against public education totally. As I thought, what kind of people, my husband, yuck. What kind of a person is he to be teaching children or leading teachers to teach children? Disgusting. So it's a very divisive thing, the devil, and there's a case of somebody who really let the devil in. And he started getting like real oily skin. And he'd have like big boils on his or pimples on his back. And it was just the evil. I felt like it was the evil coming out of his very system after I found out all this. And of course, when he started being cruel to me too. But anyway, opposition to reality. The devil does that. Theologians like Karl Barth have described the evil one not as a person but as nothingness, or a plane of existence where God's creative power is absent, symbolizing the chaos and distortion that opposes real being. See, that person I was married to had nothing going for him other than falseness. His false ego of self, he thought he was really great. He still does, I'm sure. My cousin saw a photo of him with his wife, and my son and his wife in Boston, yucking it up. And, but what? What is he? What are they? What's in them of any substance or reality or goodness? Of just even like with the son, dividing the son away from me, which was one of his goals. He always wanted to get custody of the boy. He didn't want him, but then when the divorce, then he wanted something. He wanted to do something that would hurt me, and he fought, but he lost in court. That was when the judge let me leave with the children 2,200 miles away. And no, you're not having custody of the boy. The judge knew. But he's got custody of his soul now. But the son is old enough. He allowed it. He allowed that, and he has become, I don't know what he's got to show for substance. I hope he does. He was a wonderful human being growing up. He was very sensitive, very spiritual, very loving, very kind, until he started being very ugly. And that's when we let over to evil. And he wanted to align with his dad. That was so important to him. And so he ended up, aligning with, this is a warning, don't align with people. And of course we can always say, well, they're not that, and look, like my one daughter, oh, but he's so successful. And I said, but at what price? At what cost? Yes, he has money. Some of it is mine that I got ripped with the divorce. And some that he finagled by making my income so low. My eldest daughter caught on. She said only one time, well, he could have helped us more financially. I thought, oh my goodness, yeah, to say the least. He caused a lot of the financial unrest and the low income by using up a lot of my retirement money. So to pay off his car loans when we were married. So that was tricky, wasn't it? So anyway, and yes, I have experience in forgiving the devil, because that grinds the devil. We may as well forgive the devil that takes over people, because they don't know what's going on. They have done certain things in their lives that allows the devil to have footholds. And that's what I'm trying to combat right now, by not letting the devil work its way in and affect my attitude or my determination to keep going and to build my body up. I've got to somehow build my body up so that I can get my thoracic spine with more muscle to it or something, so that I can endure the pain of the thoracic spine and do neck exercises that will be safe. I'll find them online. I did cancel the appointment with the neurosurgeon's PT because I thought, no, it's so hard to get in to see them, because there's people out there that need their surgeries. I called yesterday, said, let them have the appointment. I'll look online for the exercises. I'll find them. It's okay. I was going to ask them to send me to physical therapy for it. And then I thought, well, what if I end up with the same situation I've ended up with this lady? And the bottom line is I'm the one that's got to do the work. I'm the one that's got to do the exercises. No one else can do it for me. So I thought, why go to another appointment and then drive to physical therapy to be shown stuff that I can see online to do? I just got to do it. And I've got to get the devil away from trying to discourage me and get myself out of this mode I'm in, of even like that flashback of my calling that woman after I knew for sure and asking her, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I told her, I said, we're separating now. And I said, he has other women here. I didn't realize she still was one of his. But it was just, I just thought, I'd like someone to tell me, I'd like her to say, why? Why would she do that to another woman? But they can't. She couldn't. Because they were a lovely family. Her husband was so nice. I think they ended up getting divorced later on. I think they kept together for their children. But I've researched them and they're not together. And I hope he's found a very nice woman, that nice man. But it's the devil. It's the temptation, and the trying to oppose real beingness. The devil will try to make people nothing, but has them think that they're great. Narcissism A lot of narcissism and pride is a signal that someone has the devil in them. I know of a woman who does things like that, very evil, a very nasty person, intentionally. She's one of these that puts the knife in and likes to twist it and lies, misrepresents, sets up a tricky system as if other people are inquiring or asking, and then she can expound. And it's evil. And I've noticed with people who the devil has gotten into, they're physically unattractive even. People can be whatever. If you have God, there's a beauty to them. The woman who, with Medicare, I could tell she wasn't very educated. She's poor. She told me a lot about herself. It was one of these amazing conversations again. But I loved her. I told her she had a beautiful voice and a caring heart, and I told her what a beautiful person. And that she would so love to have a dog. She could hear my dogs. But she can't. She's in an apartment. They charge extra. And she says it's so small we barely have room. So I said, I'm praying that your circumstances change. She doesn't make a lot of money answering Medicare phone calls, obviously. But she did such a great job. She went beyond and above trying to help answers for me with why I can't get my bill paid, my account number to work. But at least I know it's the account number's right with Medicare. It's the bank that I've got to deal with on it. But just a small thing. I want to pay my bill. And in the past, I was on a different bill pay with a different bank, and it took it. So now I just have to get this figured out, and I can send them the money in a check in the mail in the meantime. But just meeting her voice, I could tell. And I think she's overweight, very overweight from her voice. But she's poor, and that's a comfort to her. There's a lot that God shows me of people. I can see her, and she's a lovely, beautiful person. And it doesn't matter her physical when you're have God and you're beautiful and you're loving and good. And the devil hasn't eaten. She did not feel sorry for herself at all. She was humble, meek, helpful, loving, kind, good, beautiful. It makes all the difference. I'm sure some of you write in if you know of situations like that. No matter the outer appearance of a person, if they have love and are beautiful people and don't have the devil in them, they're beautiful. You want to be around them, you love them, you resonate with them. Their voices are lovely. What they say is lovely. Even if they have to get firm or stern or give disappointing news, they do it from a point of love and honesty and humility. Makes a difference. Instructional symbolism. The mirror for the soul. Some modern seekers view the devil as a teacher or a mirror that reflects the uncharted terrain of the soul, helping individuals recognize their darknesses so that they can overcome them. Well, I think that can be. I would rather have God so much in me that I mirror God. But none of us is perfect. So with my imperfections, with my tendency to get snarly and irritable and impatient with this physical therapist, see, that's a road I don't want to get into. I was going to counter the lies that this other person had said about suffering and even about my arachnoiditis, the untruths, because I don't like it when people write things about it that aren't true, because people who maybe are new to having it then get a false hope. It's not fair. It's not nice to other people to mislead them that there's some cure, when the guy who is espousing online that he has a cure is full of it. He's been disproven. Other doctors, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland, they all know. Dr. Forrest Tennant, retired, doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have a cure. He means well. He wants to end his life with some big thing that he's done. Finding a cure for arachnoiditis. He hasn't. He can't. Only God could do a miracle to fix the messed up nerves in a spinal cord. Not a special diet, not some medicine or something that he sells or whatever. So we can use the darkness we have in it or our flaws and double check to make sure it's not of the devil. We're imperfect, and I suppose technically any imperfection the devil will want to use and to expand on it, mushroom it. So we have to be careful with that. But I prefer to use God as my teacher and the Holy Spirit as my teacher. But the devil is a mirror. I mean, if we see a dark mirror, a cloudy mirror, and we see some flaws in ourselves, get them out. Because if they're just our imperfections, the devil will use them against us. And if they've gotten bigger and the devil's already in them, then get that devil out. A catalyst for growth. In this view, the adversary is a necessary symbolic force that allows for free will and moral development. So, I mean, this idea is out there in modern psychology, that, to make the devil into a positive force, to make the bad in us be something that causes us to strive to do better. But I don't believe in messing around with the devil, or to consider a devil a teacher or anything positive. That's dangerous ground right there, because or to consider it as a mirror or as a catalyst for our growth. The devil is evil. The devil wants to destroy us. So I'm just saying these are instructional symbolisms that have come up in our time period. And they're not, I would not hang my hat on those at all. Distinguishing between a spiritual struggle and a psychological issue is a complex, as too often, let me get, it can become a psychological issue, it can become complex, it often overlaps and influences other aspects. In 2026, modern theological and clinical perspectives generally advocate for a holistic approach to discernment. There are different markers used, but I think with the devil, don't get involved with it in any kind of a way that you think it's going to be constructive. Turn to God. Turn to God. Turn to God. Know the devil. Know the enemy. But don't expect the devil to be a catalyst for your growth. As soon as you get into that psychobabble stuff of thinking that the devil is your friend and is going to help you overcome something or grow, that's just an inroad for the evil one. I hope you're following that. Response to spiritual disciplines. The spiritual struggle often shows some level of relief or constructive shift when engaging in prayer, scripture reading, or confession. This is the best way, I think, and I've ever found in my life of handling spiritual discord and all of the aspects of the devil. And the best way to grow spiritually, the best way to overcome any kind of what could even be psychological issues that enter into our lives, in addition to getting therapy, which is good, but get a Christian or or if you're Jewish, get a Jewish counselor or something. Get someone who is going to represent God for you and your belief system. So the spiritual struggle often shows some level of relief or constructive shift when engaging in prayer, scripture reading, or confession. That's what will help us. Turn to prayer, turn to scripture reading, and confession. Psychological manifestation. Symptoms like chronic depression, anxiety attacks, or cognitive dysfunction typically persist despite intense spiritual effort. If spiritual practices increase distress, cause like scrupulosity or obsessive fear, it may indicate an underlying psychological condition. So this is what's telling us, and it's good advice. If you have turned to praying, scripture reading, and going to confession, which in confession you get excellent counseling, but you also unburden your soul and your mind and your heart of sins and of distractions. And you get, as a result, you get a lot of good, excellent advice also, and support and suggestions. But if you are doing those things already and your depression increases, or you become obsessive, fearful, or scrupulous, meaning you get very uptight. Oh, am I doing this right? Am I sinning? Am I sinning? You'll get very, very extreme. Then you should go get therapy. That is showing that what is going on within you is beyond the prayer and the scripture reading and the confession that you're having. That is a good balance for a healthy spiritual life and growth. So it's good to know that. And there's nothing at all wrong with going to a therapist. A lot of people will resist that. I just find it's best to go to one that is of your faith, whatever your faith is. It's somebody that will meet you where you are spiritually, which is very important for our souls. So, and if you don't know someone, a therapist, go to your priest or your minister or your rabbi or your imam and ask, who is a very good psychologist that I can go to, clinical psychologist or therapist. Go to the one with the most education, that would be a clinical psychologist. You don't need a psychiatrist unless you have some disorder that requires medicine, of which a very good clinical psychologist will know. One with a PhD in clinical psychology will, after talking with you, will know this person needs medication. They can't prescribe it. It takes a medical doctor. Then they would tell you to go to so-and-so psychiatrist, who then could prescribe the medication that will help you. And then stay in your spiritual practices. Our spiritual practices are the best thing. Staying close to God. Not using the devil as a teacher. Why? That's such a high risk of I mean, intellectually and psychologically, it's interesting concept, but it's dangerous. I would never do it. However, I do this one thing, that when I have been tricked by the devil, I thank the devil. But I say this to the devil, and they say talk aloud to the devil. That's why exorcists speak aloud. The devil's not allowed privy of our silent talking. So I speak aloud and I say, thank you, devil, because I know it was you who is tricking me and upsetting me. I know it's you, devil, who's trying to keep me from getting up and doing exercises or putting things away, continuing working on the bathroom or clearing out my closet, or even relisting stuff online to sell and make some money to send to Nigeria. I know it's you doing that, causing this, but you're not causing my wonderful dark night of the soul and the dark night of the senses. That's God, but I turn to God all the more because of you. So thank you. You've turned me all the more to God. And that's like one of the most grinding things you can do to the devil, is to thank him for turning you all the more to God. And he leaves me alone then. And it's good for me. It's a good reminder to state that aloud to myself too. That this is exactly what's happening, and give God the credit, and give God the credit for my turning to God, because the devil reminded me, because the devil was messing with me. And whenever the devil messes, I turn all the more to God. That's how it is. I've got Hildegard of Bingen, right here as my witness. She was very proactive. And I wish I had an image of her in a beautiful gown, because she had her nuns not just wear the dark garment of the time period like that. That's a habit of her 12th or 10th century, 11th century time period. Hildegard switched things up, and they sang and they danced and they wore flowers in their hair. She says, we are the brides of Christ. Rejoice. Sing. They did their work singing. Yes, they still had to do their work, scrub the floors of their monastery. They were still cold and in an old dank monastery. But they lived it as the brides of Christ, with hope and love and joy. And other nuns found out about it, and they weren't happy. They wanted to be able to live with joy like that, and enjoy and rejoice in being the bride of Christ. And the superiors turned on Hildegard, the other superiors of the other monasteries in Germany. And it spread, even word spread into Belgium and into France. Oh, they weren't happy with Hildegard. But I liked what she did. And, it says, there's always a time for rejoicing. There's a time for sorrow. There's a time for rejoicing. But God says, take off your sackcloth and put on your gowns and dance. It's a time for dancing, a time for joy. And that's what I need to do here. That's why I'm going to make this Corfu chicken soup with lemon in it, egg and lemon. And but it's real smooth. It makes like a real smooth, practically a sauce. So it isn't curdled eggs or anything. I've read up about it. And it uses rice in it, which is good for my gut. And then I'll puree it. The flavors are supposedly marvelous. Rejoice. Love. And that's another way to counter the evil one. The evil one doesn't like that. But don't get ridiculous. Or, if a moment calls for seriousness and some sadness and some grieving, do that. Be appropriate in our emotions. The scope of the struggle, this is going on forever, this video is, localized resistance. A spiritual struggle may manifest specifically when trying to engage in faith-related activities. I've had this happen, when I would want to go to Mass more often or something, or even go at all, then there could be blocks to that. Or you can get sudden, intense resistance to prayer or church connection. Well, I had the opposite. God wanted me to be a traditional hermit, historic traditional hermit. I loved being in the social of church. So that can be sort of a clue to know what you're dealing with. If it's something that you already are inclined to want to be off by yourself, and you're doing that and you don't want to go to church, then you can sort of figure out that the devil's extra working on you. If it's an opposite reaction of what would be normal to you, or if it is accentuating all the more something that you struggle with, that you should go to church, or love the church, or love prayer, but you don't want to. You want to watch something on the internet or do something else. Now, I have had that happen and then I'll tell myself, well, it's okay just to relax and to listen to some music. But if it goes on and I'm not having time to pray then, or my mind is thinking more about something funny I saw or some song that's going through my head that's just a temporal ditty, then I know I need to curtail that. And then I can start to figure what's encouraging me with those thoughts and that self-talk. Oh, it's okay. You need this. Well, then here comes, it was Sophia recommended Compline on YouTube to go to sleep by. The monks of St. Joseph's Abbey in Spencer, Massachusetts, sing it. They're Trappist, Cistercian monks. She recommended the 1960 version. I only found the 1970 version, but I've got it here, and I listen to that now at night. So, and I'm going to listen. There are other groups sing it now. Other monasteries have it on YouTube. Compline, and they chant it. Scripture, the Psalms, different Psalms, and different songs. And it's beautiful. They do it a cappella usually. But their voices are so melodious. So see, there is a substitute. We can always find a better. If we're doing one thing that's okay, find something that's even better, or in that realm of relaxation, but that has some holy purpose with it. We can donate money. We can donate money to a cause of people that are religious, that we can trust to give the money to the poor. If we trust the person, we can do that. Always step it up to always be promoting our faith and to promote others to come to that faith in God. And that's I'm not saying, to proselytize, I've talked about that, but to evangelize. Increase the good of God in the world. So like the protesters, like I said, if they have all this time and money to be in various states and to have cars with different license plates, use that money and fly to some of these countries, get a passport, fly, and do some volunteer work there in the name of God, for the love of God, and for the love of the people. Or use the money that you're spending on your motels and your gas staying these places to protest illegally, because they're not just staying on the sidewalk with their signs chanting. They're disrupting traffic. They're breaking the law. They're impeding the ICE officers from doing their work. And that's more than a protest. That's impeding. That's breaking the law. Then use that money for the hotels and all and send it to some poor family in Guatemala or wherever. And actually do something to get something positive to make their lives better. They would love the money. Get them some food. If you're concerned that they'd waste it on drugs, give it to a church group that's down there that is feeding them. Some missionary who's in that country, who that's their work, is to buy food and to pay for housing or help put a roof on their hut or whatever, or to help educate the children so that they can be a better country, a better family, get them clothing. That's the way. The other way is divisive. It's resistance. It's resistance to doing what could be better. There's good, better, and best. Always aim for best, but at least try to aim for good. If you get into the other, bad, badder, and worse, bad, and what would it be? Well, bad and worst, I guess. Then what? That's evil. Generalized impairment. Mental illness usually affects all areas of life, including sleep patterns, appetite, social withdrawal, and the ability to perform daily responsibilities. I have considered, when you get into a dark night of the soul, or with the devil's messing with you and trying to hold you down, you have to be very open and honest. And do a double check on yourself. Get a psychologist to check you out. Or talk to your priest or your minister. Make sure you're not having some kind of a mental sickness or some kind of a wrong action that you're doing. So it's always good. Like I have Dr. H to talk with to make sure that I'm not into some kind of a social withdrawal or not eating properly. I'm eating well. I'm eating healthily. But I'm not performing my daily tasks as I want to. Lovey, we'll go out. So, here's interesting things about demonic, spiritual psychosis. That's a critical boundary line. Warning signs and experiences psychological rather than a genuine awakening. So you can get into these things. The devil will do this, believing that one is a chosen messenger or has unique divine powers. That's why if you have spiritual experiences, you need to have a spiritual advisor. And and I know some people say they can't get a spiritual director. That's fine. If you have been in the spiritual life for years, like Sophia can't get a spiritual director, but she's had for years. She's advanced in spiritual life. She's done a lot of reading, praying, etc. I'm talking about people who have had some kind of a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience, and they go off the deep end, so to speak, and all of a sudden think that they are some manifestation of God or some other sign of mental illness. Extreme paranoia about dark forces that leads to total isolation. If you let the devil think the devil's everywhere or something like that. This whole section here is talking about extremes. All that I was talking about before are just checks and balances to make sure you're not being influenced or allowing the devil to mess with you. losing touch with basic reality of the ability to care for yourself. That can happen. You can get way off the deep end. Practical discernment steps. Lovey, come here. We're going to get up now. Come on. Got just a few more things to say. Well, I guess I have more than a few. I have like 5 little pages. Here's practical discernment steps. Rule out the physical, like a medical exam or a mental health exam. Collaborate, consult with a trusted spiritual advisor and a counselor. I've already talked about that. Monitor the fruit of your struggle. Genuine spiritual refinement usually leads toward growth, humility, and love. Psychological manifestations or the evil one's influence tend to lead toward hopelessness, fragmentation, and nothingness. I think this others just repeat stuff. Anyway, these are the practical discernment steps. If you have any questions, talk to your minister or your priest or your rabbi and a clinical psychologist. But start with your parish priest or your minister or your church affiliation. They have lots of experience with the devil and with God. And rule out anything that is more temporally involved or any kind of a psychological sickness. And I've run into people with them along the way. A young woman once. And she would call with these different experiences that she says she have. And there would always be something that would be a red flag to me. And then she would admit, well, yes, I just get so angry and I just put a big iron frying pan through the wall and stuff. But she thought that was some kind of a mystical experience she was having and things like that. So, don't just call someone like me. Get to your priest, get to a therapist and get clear. Go to your priest and go to your therapist, go to your minister, go to a therapist. Get your help. And that's the only way to make sure and know the signs of when you're in good shape, when you're still able to pray and to love and go to church, and not because you have a horrible back and arachnoiditis or ecstasies and it was too much for the priest and the parishioners to handle. And you have a hermit vocation and you realize, and so you're a traditional historic hermit and your life has been very blessed when you stay in your cell and worship in your cell and don't get involved in parish life. See those are, and your spiritual director says, yes, this is more like it. So, okay, God bless you all. This was very, very long. I'll report how the soup went. I'm on vacation in Corfu with Saint Spiridon. Saint Spiridon. Love to you all. Love to you all.